to me is to have all these things that you can do if you want to, that you don't have to do if you don't want to do. And there's a way in which American and white and human become synonyms. That why can't we just treat each other as human beings? To me, when I hear it from a white person, it means why can't we all just pretend to be white people? I'll pretend you're a white person, and then you can pretend to be white. Why don't you eat what I eat? Why don't you drink what I drink? Why don't you think like I think? Why don't you feel like I feel? God damn it, I'm so sick and goddamn tired of hearing about that. I'm sick of that. That's what it means to be human being to me. That's what it means to be white. That's what it means to be American. What? You think that, hey, it'll all be fine when we just treat each other like human beings. And what that says to me is, don't be yourself. Be like me. Keep me comfortable. Connect where I'm ready to connect. Come out to my place. Or maybe I'll come down and get some artifacts from your place. That is bullshit. When you say that your ethnicity is American, there is no American ethnicity. You had to throw away your ethnicity to become American. That's what it means. That's what it means. You give up who you are to become American. And you can pretend that it's okay because you're white. When we give up who we are to become American, we know that we're dying from it. You're dying from it too, but you don't know it necessarily. Get ethnic, you know? You know, I'm not going to trust you until you're as willing to be changed and affected by my experience and transformed by my experience as I am every day by yours.
Welcome back to my channel. I'm your host and presenter, Eugene Stories. Well, I'm hoping that you are doing great from wherever you're watching from. There's something that I want us to discuss. Why is it that there is always excessive obsession of black people? People are so obsessed with black people. The biggest question is, why are white people always so much obsessed with black people? There is something which contradicts itself. You see, people are anti-black, especially non-melanated group of people. But the reality is that people are really obsessed with black people because black people goes out and do great things. And one of the most outstanding theories about the truth is that black people are God's chosen people. And this has been proven historically. This has been proven biblically. This has been proven theologically. One of the greatest things that it's really outstanding about black people, they have always been resilient. And this has made them go through a lot of things. And I'm really proud of my cousins who are in the United States who are pushing so hard. And in this video, sometimes you might get tired of a lot of things that is being pushed towards you, a lot of negative stereotypes that the world pushed towards you. You find yourself trying to give up, but you tend to forget the power that you have, the power that makes these people become so much obsessed with you. And that's what we are going to discuss today, right? You see, there is a say in our community back in Africa that says that a tree that has a lot of things is the tree the tree that has a lot of fruits, to be specific. It's the tree that receives a lot of stones. It means that if there could have been no fruits, there could have been no stones to be thrown them so that the fruits can get down. This is so much applicable to what's happening towards black people. Black community is one of the most resented community. People always find something negative to say about black people. But what if I try to change the script and tell you all these things is working by design? There's a reason as to why people are obsessed with you and at the same time hate you, right? So kindly buckle up for this video. I'm hoping that you'll be back and we'll talk about it because it's so much important for us to learn, educate ourselves in regards to all these things that are happening. I'm just asking you, if you're watching me for the first time and you've come across this channel for the first time, I'm just going to be asking you, kindly subscribe to my channel. You can join my membership if you want to, because I promise you, you'll get things that you'll want to learn and watch, right? On my way to 150k subs, and I'm just asking you, this is my simple plea. Kindly, you've been watching my videos for a while now and you haven't subscribed. I'm asking you to please subscribe to my channel. And then let's watch the video. I'll be back.
Stop lying to yourself. We're not white. We lack melanin. So take a moment, pause the video, and really look up what melanin does for the body and how it helps us be a part of the planet. Now that you're back, tell me, we can't be out in the sun. We can't have the same relationship to the planet as those who have melanin. It's our inferiority, not supremacy, not superiority. It is our one inferiority. And then, of course, as any bully would do, when you feel inferior, you would make yourself appear superior by bullying someone to make them feel less than you, instead of finding out how you can be the best version of yourself so that you can be your own version of greatness. And that's all we have to do. There are all these systems for distribution of resources that are built based on our greed, our desire to get resources that other people have access to and we didn't. It's that simple. They're already built, and all we have to do is remove the desire for greed and control over those resources and become a sharing, humane people. The example exists in melanated folks. They don't treat us the way we treat them. They treat us better than we treat ourselves. So let's learn. Let's enjoy the planet. Let's stop all this foolishness. And let's support those with melanated skin so that we may learn how to be humane in our own way. Race for what?
Racism is about jealousy. If you think that's a reductive statement, please stick with me. When I say jealousy, I'm talking about insecurity, which is really what jealousy is, but I think it's easier to understand if I say insecurity rather than just jealousy. Because we know from appropriation that we are very jealous of other cultures. Why would we want to listen to the music, eat the food, wear the clothes, do the hairstyles, have everything, the language, but not give credit where credit is due and not uplift the people who created it? White people are so lost in feeling like they don't have a connection to culture, especially many of us who are very far removed from our European roots. And I think the need to fill that space and that insecurity of this lack of culture and lack of something to call our own is often filled with cultural appropriation and the idea that being white is superior. I was first introduced to this concept of racism being jealousy in college, and I can't trace it back to one particular scholar, but I would like to give credit where credit is due to that Black scholar. If you can find anything tracing it to one particular person, please leave that in the comments. I think it's important to think about racism in this way if we want to unlearn it. Because, as some people say who are non-monogamous, or anyone who's just working on their relationships, Jealousy is an indicator that something is not quite right with us. It's an indicator of our insecurity and how we might be feeling. It's not about what our partner is doing or what someone on Instagram is doing with their life that makes us feel inadequate. It's about something going on inside. And I think we really need to interrogate that. What is it about people of color showing excellence, people of color maybe being more in touch with culture, people of color being more in touch with the environment, people of color making better food, and everything else that we envy? What does that trigger in us? And why do we have the need to put those people down? It's about jealousy. And if we can figure out that we're feeling that way and trace that feeling back to maybe some of our unconscious biases, I think it's a lot easier to start thinking about, how can we unlearn that? How can I feel secure in my identity as a white person who has roots in maybe Italian and like other cultures, but like doesn't really feel connected to anything? How can I feel secure in myself to not want to put others down, whether that be racism or any other form of discrimination, or just plain hating on another woman because she's amazing? You know, I think this makes it seem like racism is very simple, but it also just helps us frame it in a way that's accessible to us. We know that dismantling racism starts with individual work, and personal growth is all about thinking about the hard things about yourself, the things and parts of yourself that you don't like. And jealousy is one of those things. No one wants to be jealous. It's an awful, awful feeling. And we don't want to admit that we're jealous. And we shy away from that, but it's something we can interrogate, and I think that is going to help us go a long way. Anyway, just my thoughts.
So I was raised that Black people were God's favorite and they were the superior race. And it was interesting to be raised with that mentality, because I think it's different than a lot of how other like white people were raised. And I do believe that if more people were raised this way, the world would be a little bit better of a place, and maybe we can get along a little bit nicer together. Obviously there's pros and cons to everything. So I would love to discuss the pros and cons of what it was like to be raised with this mentality, as well as like what you think about it and what you think we should do going forward to raise the next generation of children who are carrying the future for us. So how this mentality came about, I was really quizzical and curious as a child and very outspoken. It's interesting to look back now that we're in this ginger talk right now. I'm kind of reliving a few of the silly little traumas that we face as gingers. And I noticed that I was more outspoken between the ages of 0 and 8. And once I started getting really made fun of as a ginger, I kind of lost my voice and I wasn't as brave or outspoken, and I was shy and timid. So it's kind of interesting to have that realization now, so many years later. Anyway, back to the important topic here. The way that this mentality was brought on to me was, as I said, I was very outspoken, and I was quizzical and curious as a child. So before the age of 6, I asked my mom, why do we call them Black people when they're more different shades of brown? And I asked her, why do people treat them differently or call them names? Like, what does this mean? Why is this happening? And how do you explain race and racism to a child that is under the age of 6 in a way that they can understand? Because obviously they're not going to be able to comprehend or grasp the entirety of the depth of what racism really truly is. So how do you explain that to a child? She knew that I loved my brownies and my cookies baked a little bit longer than you're supposed to, because the crispy edge of the brownie was always my favorite. And I loved when the chocolate chip cookie was a little bit crispy on the outside and a little gooey on the inside. And that was the perfect way to bake the cookies and bake the brownies. So she used that analogy. And yes, it sounds crazy, but as a 4-year-old child, it made perfect sense. And she used that analogy and she said, you know how you like your cookies and your brownies baked a little bit extra. That's kind of what God did with Black people. He took more time and more love into creating Black people, and that's why they're a little bit darker than you. He just baked them a little bit longer. That's how she described race to me. And she said that anybody who talks badly about them or is mean to them is just jealous. So right away, I was kind of just like completely infatuated and just in awe of Black people, because I'm like, oh my gosh, what is it like to be God's favorite? What is it like to, just be loved a little bit more from God? Like, I just thought it was incredible and amazing. And so I always just gravitated towards Black people because I was like, oh my God, like they're so lucky. Do they know how lucky they are? Like, how cool is it that God spent a little bit more time on them? I was fascinated by it.
Brothers and sisters, welcome back to the channel. I'm hoping you've heard all these people talk about these concepts, and it's important for us to always come out and have discussions in regards to what's really happening, right? Because we can't just take things for granted. While Black folks, melanated people in the United States, have been living with all these traumatic experiences that has always been imposed on them. And this leads us to a discussion. Why is it that people always are jealous and keeps paying attention to anything that a Black person does? I'd like to talk about the historical context of white obsession with Black people. If you are keen, Black scholars, Black elites, people like Cat Williams, have always talked about, why do you think that white people are so much obsessed with blackness, with Black people? They hate Black people, but they like blackness. They are anti-Black. From the very beginning of the transatlantic slave trade, white colonial powers paid close attention to Black people, not out of admiration alone, but as a way of controlling them. Black labor, culture, and resilience were seen both as source to be exploited and a potential threat to white supremacy. This watchfulness was institutionalized through slave patrols, surveillance, and constant monitoring of enslaved Africans to prevent rebellion. The pattern established a long-standing habit, keeping a close eye on Black lives as a means of maintaining control. It was not just an amazement, in as much as they are trying to make you feel like you're not loved, in as much as they are trying to make you feel like you are not worthy. Remember, they are always paying a close attention to what you're doing because it's important to them. What are the roots of jealousy in culture and spiritual wealth that Black people have? Even during slavery, white societies recognized, that is, whether consciously or not, the extraordinary cultural and spiritual gifts of African people. From deep traditions of music and rhythm to the ability to maintain hope in impossible conditions. I'm talking about resilience. Black creativity was unmatched. The physical labor of Africans, but also appropriated their culture. White enslavers wanted the physical labor of Africans, but also appropriated the cultural expressions while denying them the credit. The irony is that much of American culture today, that's music, dance, sports, and even speech, is rooted in African creativity, something white America could never replicate. The melanated community, especially in the United States, have really done a credible job in these spaces, and it's globally recognized their place in music, art, culture. And yet, if you think this is a lie, you'll hear some conspiracy theories saying that Black people doesn't have a culture, especially Black people in the United States. This leaves you with a question. If they really don't have a culture, what are the parameters of measuring a culture if it's not art, if it's not music, if it's not rap, and all these part of musical essentials that they have that other communities don't have, right? So it is easily debatable to say that these people, they don't want people to know the Black American experience. They don't want people to understand the greatness that is within the Black community. And this leads us to the fear of Black excellence, something that we've been trying to talk about. One reason white people have historically monitored Black activities so closely is fear. The fear if Black people are allowed to flourish freely, they will outshine the dominant group in every sphere. This is why during the Reconstruction, after the Civil War, laws and violent groups like the Ku Klux Klan emerged to crush Black success. Black excellence, they challenged the lie of white superiority. And so it must be monitored, undermined, and in many cases sabotaged to maintain racial hierarchy. Right. I'm also going to be trying to talk about the psychological insecurity and projection. Jealousy often grows out of insecurity. White supremacy itself is built on fragile foundation because it must consistently invent reasons to justify dominance. When white people when white people see Black achievement, whether in sports, entertainment, academia, or entrepreneurship, it triggers the insecurity. This insecurity can transform into an obsession, with white society constantly comparing itself to Black individuals and communities. Rather than addressing their own shortcomings, some project negative stereotypes onto Black people to justify resentment. Also, talking about economic motivation for close surveillance. Beyond personal journey, there is also an economic motive. Historically, Black labor and creativity have generated immense wealth for the white elites. Plantation economies, Jim Crow era sharecropping, and exploitation of Black musical talent in the entertainment industry all depended on white people closely monitoring and controlling Black activity. Even today, corporations monitor Black cultural trends so they can package and sell for profit, often without compensation of the Black creators. Let's go to the spiritual dimension, God's chosen people. Many Black people, and even some white people, believe that Africans and their descendants are the God's chosen people. Based on biblical prophecy and historical evidence, it's this belief, it's true. It will explain why there is so much spiritual and cultural resilience in the Black community, despite the centuries of oppression. For those who recognize this, the jealousy stems from knowing that they cannot destroy what God has ordained. This spiritual awareness could explain why white supremacy has always relied on constant pressure, fear, and distraction, an attempt to dim a divine light that cannot be extinguished, right? Talking about obsession with limiting Black freedom. Because of this perceived special status, there is almost instinctive drive in white supremacy systems to limit Black freedom. This shows up in over-policing, workplace discrimination, targeted political laws, and cultural appropriation. White attention to Black activity often has less to do with admiration and more to do with containment. Making sure that Black people do not become too independent, too wealthy, or too influential in shaping society's direction, right? Cultural appropriation is also a form of jealousy. One way jealousy manifests is through cultural appropriation. White people have historically taken black hairstyles, music, fashion, and language. They repackaged them and presented them as their own innovation. This is not just theft, it is a recognition of superior creativity and originality found in black culture. By appropriating it, white society tries to benefit from and dilute the uniqueness of black expression. The media amplification of black's life, mainstream media really plays a significant role in sustaining white attention on black life, whether through sensationalization news stories about black communities or the mass promotion of black athletes and entertainers. The media keep black lives constantly in spotlight. This constant visibility feeds curiosity, envy, and even at times resentment, reinforcing the cycles of attention and control, right? And this is a threat to white supremacist narrative. The existence of strong, talented, and spiritual grounded black communities challenges the entire foundation of white supremacy. If the idea of black inferiority collapses, so does the justification for centuries of exploitation. This is why even harmless black success stories often provoke backlash. They threaten the central myth that white dominance is natural and inevitable. Close attention is paid so that counter narratives can be quickly suppressed or spun. Talking about the internal conflict of admiration and at the same time, resentment. At a deeper level, many white people both admire and resent black people. They admire the beauty, the resilience, and the cultural richness, but resent the fact that these qualities thrive despite the systemic oppressions. This creates a strange tension. They want to consume black culture, but do not want to see black people free from white control. This contradictory feeling drives the constant monitoring of black lives. They want the culture without the empowerment. I would like to say this, why it will continue until power structures change. This jealousy and hyper-attention will persist as long as racial structures remain intact. As long as white supremacists need to reinforce its dominance, it will keep one eye on black people at all times, first to imitate, to control, and to limit. But the irony is that this obsession only confirms what black people already believe, that their gifts, their culture, and their very old a power that cannot be erased. In that sense, the jealousy itself is a proof of divine and historical significance of black people in the world. Really, I want to know what you feel about this video. As you know, I'm your host and presenter Jindok Stories. But until then, let me see you in my next video. Peace, love, and harmony. Salute.